make me also.
Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us today. Just give a little bit longer as people are joining from our waiting room. Okay, Ocean, should I go ahead and get started? Great. Okay. All right. Welcome, everyone. My name is Hallie Butvin. I am Director of Special Projects at the Smithsonian Center for Folklife and Cultural Heritage. We are, as an institution, a member of the UNESCO ICH NGO Forum, and I serve as part of our research group looking at ICH and sustainable tourism. And we're so excited to bring you all together today and to share. I won't be doing the talking today, but to introduce you to some wonderful colleagues who have been doing research work on cultural tourism that I think you all will find very interesting and informative to these interactions between intangible cultural heritage and sustainable tourism. Before we get started, I want to share some really sad news. I just learned this morning that we lost Professor Dr. Christine Kutma, who passed away recently. She was from Estonia and had been the head of UNESCO Chair on Applied Studies of ICH. And so I just want to recognize that sadness. We are putting her memorial in the chat. She was very supportive of the research group and the convention, and that's a great loss to our community. All right. I want to introduce you to today. As we've done cultural heritage work at the Smithsonian, we've delved into this space. We've been working for about 10 years now, a little bit more than that. And I've had the pleasure of getting to know some really incredible researchers in this process of trying to figure out how to work effectively with communities to design tourism experiences that really, create an opportunity to serve the goals of preserving and sustaining cultural heritage that matters most to people, and to do that in a way that's really ethical. And so today we're joined by two researchers that I have had the pleasure of working with over the years, Ruzanna Tsaturyan. Ruzanna is a researcher from Armenia who we worked with on our My Armenia Cultural Heritage Tourism Program, and Ketevan Gurchiani, who I've had the pleasure of working with for the last couple of years on a village-based project in Georgia that you're going to be hearing a lot more about these projects today. And moderating the conversation, we have Michele McKenzie. I met Michele first working on our Tunisia Living Culture program that was funded by USAID. And then, as a beautiful coincidence, Michele ended up being the chief of party on a tourism program that focused in the Caucasus. And so she worked with both Ruzanna and Ketevan. And I just saw Ahmed Charfi join us from Tunisia as well. What a wonderful, friendly face to see in the chat. So what I'm delighted today to bring these amazing women together, bringing a research perspective. Michele is so dynamic and incredible, and a mentor to me as well, learning more broadly about tourism, and in her career, which has been incredible, Destination Canada, and developing experiential tourism, and particularly working with Indigenous communities. So I'm going to stop there and hand it over to Michele, because I think this is going to be a really rich dialogue, and I can't wait to dive in. So Michele, please take it away.
Thank you, Hallie. Hi, Ahmed. It's so good to see you. Just have to say that. And thank you for those introductions, Hallie, and welcome everyone to today's dialogue on action research experiences in tourism and living heritage. So I'd like to thank the Smithsonian Center for Folklife and Cultural Heritage and the ICH NGO Forum for convening us here today. And just a reminder before we get started for everyone, please keep your mics off through the presentation. If you have questions I'm asking, if you can put them in the chat, and I will be watching the chat for your questions as we go. Our objective today is to expand the scope of our understanding of the relationship between ICH and tourism, and the benefits and challenges from different perspectives. We'll explore the practical application of action research in tourism and living heritage contexts and what to do when tourism and ICH meet. Action research, as we know, is a collaborative, iterative approach at identifying problems, implementing context-specific solutions, and generating social change. I became interested in this approach following my experience in Canada, developing the Canadian Signature Experiences Collection, and my follow-on work in international development in the MENA region and South Caucasus. And so my observation is that the so-called field of tourism development is impatient and often driven by marketing concepts of authentic experiences without the rigor of a research-based approach. In fact, those some approaches in tourism can actually be damaging to communities. So it's very important that we be very cautious and when working to develop ICH experiences. Today, our panelists will share their lived experiences applying action research methodology in diverse cultural and community settings related to tourism and ICH. And I'm particularly delighted that our speakers are from Georgia and Armenia, beautiful part of the world that I had the opportunity to live in and work over the past 2 years. So our first speaker, I'd like to introduce more formally, of course, her bio's on the website, but I'd like to just take a moment. Ketevan Gurchiani is a professor of anthropology and head of the Research Center for Anthropology at Ilia State University in Tbilisi. Her work explores urban anthropology, everyday religion, and the negotiation of heritage in post-Soviet spaces. In 2024, she led ethnographic research for the Smithsonian Center for Folklife and Cultural Heritage in the Republic of Georgia in support of new tourism experiences based on living culture in the Mukhrani region. Following her 2015 to 18 research on religion among young Georgians, Ketevan has managed the Tbilisi as an urban assemblage project since 2020 and curated several related exhibitions. She has held fellowships at the University of California, Los Angeles, Columbia University, New York University, and the University of Frankfurt, and has taught at Cornell University. She currently collaborates on international research projects supported by the Polish Academy of Sciences and the Canadian Research Council, and serves on the scientific board of the Frobenius Institute and the Central Eurasian Studies Society. So Ketevan, please.
So, thank you very much for the very kind introduction. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm delighted to have the opportunity to speak with you today and briefly introduce our project. I'll provide just a short overview, and then we can expand our discussion to address topics that are of interest to the audience. In December 2023, the Smithsonian Center for Folklife and Cultural Heritage launched a new partnership with the Foundation for Regional Economic Development of Mukhrani to develop community-based cultural heritage tourism in the Republic of Georgia, particularly in the village of Mukhrani. The center, through its Cultural Heritage Tourism Initiative, has been collaborating with communities to create cultural heritage tourism initiative, tourism experiences for several years. The Armenian experience was particularly interesting in this regard. With the participation of our Armenian colleagues and in collaboration with local organizations, we planned a study of Mukhrani's cultural heritage. Mukhrani is quite a large village to Georgian standards with approximately 8,000 residents. It's located very close to Tbilisi, what makes it particularly fascinating and also very interesting is how it serves as an intersection point for many different cultural layers. It's multi-ethnic and multi-religious. It holds significant tourism potential because due to ancient mosaics discovered in a nearby village, Tbilisi, as well as medieval fortresses, a 19th century palace, and diverse cultural heritage from the 20th century. The planned project aimed to foster collaboration and active cooperation among all stakeholders. Our approach centered on three key elements: collaboration, bringing together tradition bearers, team experts, researchers, and enterprise specialists. Documentation, creating a comprehensive research report with in-depth study and recommendations for tourism development and promotion, utilizing professional photography, filmmaking, and graphic design to establish brand identities and marketing materials. My team and I, so our team consisted of two anthropologists and one historian, Tinatin Homeriki and Alexander Kavtaradze. We joined this project as researchers. Our goal was to thoroughly study the cultural practices that shaped the village life, gather information through historical and archival research about forgotten or faded practices, observe how the local population lives today, and understand how they themselves envision the development of these cultural practices. Our research process involved several stages, and I will just outline them shortly. One was research that was conducting oral history interviews, targeted studies of certain areas or practices, and identifying distinctive cultural practices. The second important thing was youth engagement, involving Mukhrani public school students in field research, teaching them oral history, interviewing, and documentation techniques, including visualization techniques. Workshops its aim was to provide training for community members on tourism experience creation, costing, pricing, marketing, and communications, but also to give school children kind of a stage where they could present their work. Through the project, we identified different cultural heritage bearers. Some expressed interest in participating in the project, which meant developing experiences and receiving funding from the foundation. Ultimately, 7 projects were developed, and I will just go very quickly through those projects. You see them in short here, but to present them in pictures too. That was dry fruit workshop led by a young 22-year-old woman, food wine tasting experience, the horseshoe forging that was also something that developed out of this cultural practice, Georgian folk instrument classes, food tasting experience, dance lessons offered already in the village but developed in touristic experience, knife carving led by a young men from the village. Each development stage required collaboration, negotiation, and sensitivity toward what might be fascinating from an anthropological perspective, but potentially harmful if offered as a tourist experience. One example was the sacred wine tradition, for which special spaces and often secret trees exist in these villages. Despite the potential interest for tourists, the family-oriented nature of these rituals was of decisive importance. One of our research objectives was also to recognize and consider the everyday challenges and infrastructural problems faced by the local population. The main goal of this project, as we understood, and how it should be shaped, was to listen to the voice of the people who lived in the village, and to know what should be preserved, what not to touch, what should remain as something maybe exotic, but for them very important and part of their sacred practices. One very important thing was to support them and ideally to reduce disparities between chateaux. That was something that they looked up to but felt very distant, and the village. When meeting with Ruzanna, I often also mentioned that as anthropologists, we typically work with vulnerable groups, and our research, even when we focused on amplifying their voices, rarely achieves this in our lifetime, and we do not really see the real change. But this project kind of gave me the feeling and the hope that we could see tangible, meaningful results. But we can discuss in the following minutes how it developed and what are the obstacles. Thank you very much. That was the short introduction. I look forward to our discussion.
Thank you so much, Ketevan. So for everyone online, if you have questions, I'm going to ask that you hold them until after, or you can put them actually in the chat, but I'm not going to come to the questions until after both presentations and we start the discussion. So next, I am very pleased to introduce Ruzanna Tsaturyan. She's a researcher at the Institute of Archaeology and Ethnography at the National Academy of Sciences in Armenia and lecturer at Yerevan State University and a co-founder of the Culture for Sustainable Development NGO. Her research focuses on intangible cultural heritage in sustainable development and community vitality. As a member of Armenia's Expert Council on ICH, she has contributed to multiple nominations for UNESCO's representative list to the National ICH Registry. In 2018, Ruzanna collaborated with Smithsonian's My Armenia program to develop community-based tourism models and co-curated the Armenia Creating Home program at the Smithsonian Folklife Festival. More recently, she has focused on the vulnerabilities of ICH in the context of forced displacement, working with displaced communities to document practices and resilience strategies. She shared her early findings at the 2025 Conference on Armenian Cultural Heritage at the University of California, Los Angeles. Ruzanna, please.
Is it okay with the voice?
Perfect.
Okay. Thank you for being here, and thank you for letting me in to have this very thoughtful for me and inspiring conversation on how research, or especially ethnography, can be applied in tourism program. I will today present the case of My Armenia Cultural Tourism Program. I have been part of the research group for that program for maybe 5 or 6 years. It was a long journey, making all of us to think, to change ourselves and to reflect a lot on our roles and responsibilities. A brief overview of the project. It was a joint project between Smithsonian Folklife and Cultural Heritage Center, Armenian government in the face of Institute Archaeology and Ethnography, where I am working, and USAID funded and My Armenia Cultural Tourism Program. The program goal was to improve and develop cultural tourism in Armenia, especially in regions, through a combination of ethnographic research and support to the traditional craft, create capacities, and create innovative approaches to tourism development. We have elaborated, or Smithsonian Folklife Center already had its very well developed and discussed methodology, which was applied to the project. It was research-based, the crucial element in this, and bearers of cultural heritage through this methodology were not seen merely subjects, but active participants or co-creators in the development of tourism experiences. And community-based tourism was seen as a tool for enhancing cultural sustainability across Armenia. Methodologically, the program was rooted in what anthropologist Clifford Geertz called thick description. We used this concept to develop deep contextual portraits of cultural practices, places, and people. This approach helped convey the multi-layered nature of heritage, so that even a visitor unfamiliar with Armenia can connect with the local life and values. The aim was to enable a meaningful dialogue between visitors and communities, rather than simply offering passive consumption of culture. And we applied ethnographic and cultural heritage research in several ways, trying to improve the content of tourism experiences, develop and implement an ethnographic module for regional tour guides. We enriched the content of 7 regional museums. We supported the design and content of 8 regional cultural festivals. We also have a training for TUMO students through videography workshop focused on ethnographic filmmaking. And also we shared whatever we learned and reflect through this project at conferences and publications. We work within the project in 5 regions of Armenia. You can see the Yerevan is the capital of Armenia, and the regions are trying to, the project choose the regions far from the capital in order to make more benefit for regions. And we were trying to to create tourism experiences in several sectors: craft, food, art, hiking trails, wine experiences, and more. So throughout the project, since 2018-2020, we have supported to the creation of nearly 72 experiences and recommendations over that regional tourism, cultural tourism experiences. Here you can see the page for My Armenia project. It has different sections already divided by different specificities. Like here you can see the food related and wine related experiences. Each of them are inspired or grounded on the research. You can see the region, then the specific offer, winemaking, cooking classes, and different, here you can see another page for artisan initiative, where different craft workshops and touristic experiences were offered. And also our research somehow supported the development of natural experiences like hiking tours or excursions or visits to sightseeings. And also museum experiences we were working on together with the project and art curator, which also was grounded on the ethnographic research. Here I just presented one example from just by my own experience. We have elaborated a printing workshop at one regional museum at Dilijan, because they have lots of printing exponents in their museum, and project gifted a printing machine to the museum, and visitors now can go there and print already developed sketches, but those sketches are based on the research. So here in my hands, you can see one sketch that highlighting the lace school traditions, lace making school traditions in Dilijan. Another would highlight the local wild herb weaving tradition, and also that twisted roads that are bringing to Dilijan. Our next portion, a big portion where we used the research, was for Smithsonian Folklore Festival Armenians program in Washington in 2018, and the program was called Armenia Creating Home. For 10 days, 7,300 visitors attended the festival. We have more than 100 participants who were presenting more than 100 planned program activities during Armenia's living cultural heritage. Again, this concept of the curatorial concept was research-based, grounded in community-based research, and we choose the way of live demonstrations rather than reconstruction of traditions. Here you can see the group of co-curators. Hali Batvin was the leading curator, Levon Abramian and Satenik Mukhrani and me were also co-curators of the project, of the festival program. Now I bring some photos about from the research phase and the festival demonstration phase, like Hazarashen roof we've observed in some villages and how we there created that space. Lavash baking on the right side during our research, it is a traditional bread, and then how we make it happen at the festival side. And the last one I love very much, how Armenian program coordinators from the Smithsonian Center tend to sterilize the jar and making them winter preserves like we do in Armenia. And on the right side, you can see that corners in most of Armenian village houses. Also, we have created, based on the research, some documentaries on regional traditions and foodways, which is now in wider use for teaching, for presenting, and making the project outcomes sustainable. Thank you. And I'm happy to reflect on this later during question and answer session.
Thank you so much, Ruzanna. So now we will open it up for the discussion. As I say, I've got some questions prepared, but if you have any questions, please again, please add them into the chat, and I will make every attempt to get to them. So I'd just like to kind of jump in on maybe to think about action research and the steps of action research, and thinking about collaboration and stakeholder engagement. Ketevan, I'd like to start with you, please, and ask, what strategies did you use to build trust and ensure active participation in the community?
Thank you very much for this question, because it is really crucial to build trust. Besides the usual instruments that we as anthropologists have, engaging in everyday practices, etc., one of the most impactful aspects of our methodology was the involvement of school children, of local school children from Mukhrani Public School. Their role was really pivotal in building the trust, because they were absolutely essential in our research process and shaping the outcomes. There was an anthropologist, Evans Pritchard, and he said, if the children trust you, then the community will trust you too, because if they welcome you and if they are ready to work with you. So first, they provided immediate access to family networks that would have taken months for us to develop organically. When we trained them in oral history techniques and in visualizations and documentation methods, they did not just learn research skills, they became active participants, and they would take you to their grandmothers and grandfathers, etc. Their enthusiasm was also contagious, and family members who might have been hesitant to speak with us directly, or also to acknowledge or to look into their archives or look around and see if something is interesting, now were more willing to participate. Then second, the children's involvement signaled also to the broader community that our project valued this intergenerational knowledge transfer. That we cherished this. And another important thing, besides being involved with school children, was very close collaboration with the local NGO. There is one local NGO whose members were very active. It was very transformative for us. We deliberately also sometimes positioned ourselves as learners rather than experts, relying heavily on their knowledge of local hierarchies, whom to approach first, so with whom to speak about what. And then they also had crucial insights into practical concerns that academic researchers might not overlook. What was the transportation problems? What were the infrastructural programs? So this collaborative approach kind of fundamentally also shifted our project from being research-driven to community-driven research. And it was not imposing these external frameworks, but working with them. And I was very happy then also to see that in the development of those touristic part of this project, they were the crucial partners. And I see them as very active partners until today. So this is in short about the building of trust.
Oh, that's so interesting. And you've kind of got onto a few other questions there as well that I have. But I'm wondering, Ruzanna, is there anything that you would like to add to that with respect to the My Armenia program on building trust
Yeah,
with
thank
community?
you. Thank you. It was, as I said, the project lasts for several years. So it was a long journey to go back and forth. As the project was just launched and we were involved 10 researchers from the Institute of Archaeology and Ethnography academic institution. It was also some kind of a new way of using our knowledge and skills. And the project did not have its own reputation yet because it was just established. And building that trust was from at the first stage a very difficult challenge for us because we were the first ones who should connect the project with the real stakeholders. And I remember that first we have our own challenges, like thinking that we need to use I could say the social reputation for our profession, as ethnographers, to enter the field. Then the project added above that our reputation, and as the project moved far and did lots of good and visible things for communities, after some period of time, the project started to build that trust for us as researchers to enter the field. It was a mutual process of negotiation. And first of all, for us as researchers, it was an ethical commitment, because we believe that our responsibility was not simply to extract knowledge, but to co-create value with communities. We know as anthropologists or ethnographers, researchers, we hold that power to shape narratives, decide what present, and influence how traditions are interpreted by wider audiences. That's why for us was that essential moment to acknowledge also our position and share that power throughout the process. Also, all the time thinking of the huge responsibility we are carrying out as bridge builders for that trust.
Excellent. You've given me a lot of food for thought as well, Rosanna, as you were speaking, and I'm reflecting on the fact that you mentioned that the project was done in partnership with the Institute of Archaeology and Ethnography at the National Academy of Sciences, and I'd like to just reflect on how important I think that partnership is, especially when I compare our work in this area in Tunisia, where we did not have the benefit of working with the government research partner. We thought we did initially, but the geopolitical dynamic changed, and it left us without that partnership. And so, as a project, we worked directly with the researchers. But from a sustainability point of view, it's been my learning that it would be always preferable to have a research institution from the jurisdiction actively engaged and committed to the project as well, and have the researchers who are attached to that institute also be working on the project. It just builds capacity. And I know Ahmed is on the line. I don't know if he wants to maybe add any questions of his own in the chat, but that would be one observation I would make there. Also, in my experience, you know, working in donor-funded projects that are working in this area, and my experiences with USAID-funded projects, but I think it would, I think the observation would translate to other donors, is that for tourism projects, we're always asked and thinking about, you know, what is the sustainability of our activity beyond the life of the project? And I really don't know of another project in tourism that's been funded through international development dollars that has been more sustainable than the My Armenia project beyond the life of the My Armenia program. This program is finished years ago now, and these experiences are still available, and the communities are still benefiting from this research-based approach. So I just wanted to add that it's that would be one of my learnings. But going on to thinking about kind of these more on these real world challenges, I do want to ask about some of the challenges that we're experiencing integrating the community and integrating the results of the research into tourism initiatives. And Ketevan, in your presentation, you specifically mentioned the challenge of minority inclusion. And I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit more about that, please.
Thank you very much. There was, I find it fascinating how this idea, what is worth being named as heritage, how it really works in real life, and how the master narratives, those historiographical narratives, what is worth in a culture, also shape the attitudes of people on ground. And in Mukhrani, which is a very multi-ethnic and multi-religious village, the gaze of school children or of community members was very much shaped by this dominant narrative. And whenever we ask them to find places or objects that are worth preserving, their gaze was shaped to look and always find something Orthodox Christian as something worth preserving. Whereas they would leave out things and places that were important for other groups or historically there, but not belonging to this mainstream narrative. So the shaping of this view and also reflecting on heritageability of things and places was very important. So this one village has different layers. It has a huge Armenian layer, it has Azerbaijani layer, it has German layer, it has a layer of the medieval time, of antiquities, etc. So, and which ones are then stressed and focused? It is always also this kind needs negotiations. We also had other kinds of negotiations. The local population would say that some places are not worth exploring, and then we should look if they can become important or worth telling also in their eyes. Our most intense negotiations centered on the stories that would accompany the experiences. That was a collaborative process. It was really a two-way street, but maybe we can also speak later about this, but because it is not specifically connected to the minority inclusion. So.
Okay, we'll come back to that. I think that's an interesting discussion, and I actually do want to move on to learnings. And I'm reflecting on the fact that the two case studies that we're speaking about today, the Mukhrani village work is very recent and probably would not have a chance to show quantitative results. Probably there's some qualitative, and we can ask that. But Ruzanna, I'm wondering in your case where the My Armenia program has been around for so long, if you could reflect on some of your learnings along the way, please.
Yes, thank you. I learned so much along with the project, and every time I have that chance, I'm saying that it was a life-changing project for me to see our role and our possibilities as researchers to have that active power to make changes and to bring changes. And in our work, the case I would like to share with you was my academic motivation or interest and the community interest gap. And we should all the time reflect on that. In one village of Armenia, when we were working, it was a village where Armenian refugees from Azerbaijan had been living for about 30 years. We encountered there a fascinating winemaking tradition during our fieldwork. I was a researcher by that time and now with a strong interest in displacement and intangible cultural heritage, memory issues, and continuity. And sure, I was excited about the idea of presenting this tradition through the lens of memory and displacement. I truly believe that the narrative could create a powerful connection between past and present. However, during our work, because we were spending lots of time in the villages during our research, I noticed that the local young man who was leading the tourism initiative didn't share the same enthusiasm as me. Eventually, during an open and honest conversation, he explained that his entire life had been spent over overcoming the marginalization of being labeled as displaced person. He had been born and raised in that village, and he didn't see himself as someone in exile or in transition, but rather he would like to highlight his role as a host, homeowner, and the creator of the place. And he wasn't happy or interested in being represented only through narrative of memory and loss. And it was a key moment for me to think about our academic interest, enthusiasm, and aspiration in contradiction what the tourism experience owner is interested mostly in the community. And we reoriented our initial concept to emphasize local identity and contemporary heritage, not just as a memory of somewhere else, but as an evolving cultural practice. This was the very solid lesson I learned during the project. There are more of these, but I would like just to share that point.
Okay, well, that's super interesting. And it relates as well to Ketevan's comments about narrative and the challenge around narrative. And maybe, Keti, if you could please elaborate on that comment. Thank you.
Yeah, it was interesting because we go with our ideas. We did work in archives and we found different things. But for example, in case of songs or kind of musical instruments that we want them to use or tell them, so this is a very interesting song, but it is nothing for them. It is so old that it is not actual anymore. So they would rather invent something new. They don't want to be represented as fossils or living fossils of certain ages, right? Just because it could sell better. So we had to, it was a constant negotiation. And then in some cases, we would go with the stories we heard in different families, but then another family would present an angle that would be the most important or the new angle. For example, we were working in collaboration with the foundation in Mukhrani, and then next to the new hotel and chateau, etc., there was a place where an elderly lady was developing her food experience. And she wanted to develop it as a family member of a cook who so 150 years ago worked for this owner of this chateau, for this aristocrat. And her story was a kind of anti-story, or the story that was opposed to the chateau story. And it was her freedom, it was her identity, and we we found it very interesting how she placed also all this stage in anti-chateau way, and that was an interesting negotiation. But all our negotiations were filled with this co-learning, so they learned something from us or from each other. We were this kind of mediators between different families in the same village, and they taught us also a lot.
I think it really, both of those examples really emphasize the feedback loop and the importance of listening and learning
Michele,
and iterating.
Michele, sorry, can I
Yes.
add one more example?
Yes.
Like from our field, I just remember it was one northern region in Armenia. We had a very specific traditional holiday there. We call it Vardavar. It's a traditional Armenian widespread holiday connected with water. And in that region, it has a special significance. They even had their own days to celebrate it, and their relatives even are coming from different countries to join that festival. During our research, we discovered that this is very representative for the whole that region and could have very culturally significant representation. But during our observation and research with also previous attempts to make it visitor friendly, we realized that local people do not even want to earn money during this day. This is for them just a day for their family gathering, for relatives, and having and making joy. They do not even think to have like strangers or tourists to intervene their feasts or community events. And we realized that as researcher and the project, we do not have that power to push and say that this is something you need to have tourists, and although it could also bring some money for you. And we stop on that, appreciating and acknowledging the existence of the holiday and trying to think about other connection and representation rather than direct involvement to the feasting part.
Thank you. I see, Ahmed, that you have jumped into the chat there just to speak a little bit about that partnering with the Research Institute. And I'm just wondering if I can put you on the spot. Did you want to add anything to the group? If you can come on camera and we can see you.
Sure.
What are your learning? You've worked in this as a tourism development from a tourism development point of view. Just wondering if there's anything that you would like to share from the Tunisia experience. A challenge.
Thank you, Michele. Do you hear me?
Yes.
I have problems with this new. Anyway, I'm very happy before everything to see you again. I haven't seen you for since one year and a half, maybe. To see you, Hale, also Ashkhan, Ruzanna. We met virtually, and that's what the thing I want to add, that in Tunisia project, Tunisia's Living Culture, we were inspired by the Armenian experience. I remember that Hale connected me to Ruzanna. We had a meeting about the experience of the methodology used in Armenia to succeed our project in Tunisia, which had to be made in a shorter time. So we hadn't the comfort of the 5 years that Armenian colleagues had. So here in Tunisia, many pieces moved us, as Michele, you explained earlier. So we couldn't have a total commitment from the heritage institution in Tunisia to help us with the researchers, with the research process, etc. So we had a scientific committee that were totally involved with us. There are only 3 people, but they were very good, Hamida, Awataf, and Lutfi, who helped us searching and hiring the good researchers for every project we will follow up, just to let the people listening to us understand. The project here was about finding working with 30 different projects. All of them have some heritage connection somewhere. So we have to hire 1 researcher for every project. And those specialities of those projects are very different. Some are about food, others about handcraft, etc. So finding 30 different researcher was an extra work for us. So it was even hard because we don't belong not to university, not to the research institution, etc. So many of them were students. So they were good. Most of them were good. They made good work with the research, with the final reports they gave us. But some of them required more effort because they still have not enough skills to work with that. So having a good representative, a good institution in the country you'll work in with this tourism projects is crucial, is essential, I think. So that's
Okay.
it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ahmed. So I'm just going to open up for any questions if someone wants to put their hand up. I think there is a problem with the chat. So if you do have a question, please put up your hand and I will try to get to you that way. But thank you, Ahmed. It's a good, just a good real life example of the challenge of kind of I think Ruzanna and Keti, these projects are very, very good projects. You make them look very easy, and I know that they're not easy to do. I think it's very it's important work. It's hard work to make sure that you've got the right research team and the right researchers, and of course you who are yourselves very excellent researchers. Ruzanna, I would like to ask you, because the project is that much more advanced. You've had the opportunity now. I want to speak about the commercialization of these projects in terms of being tourism experiences that are sold through the tourism distribution channels. What has been your experience with working with tourism, with tour operators? What lessons have the experiences learned? Can you speak about that?
The project was designed in a way that it has, how to say, different branches. One was the project team responsible for the overrunning of the project, like developing of tourism experiences and bringing them to the market. Then the researchers were, how to say, hired to support the project. Somehow we did our job on research and have to stay connected to the tourism experiences development team and marketing team to advocate more, even out of our responsibility and assignment, in order to take care of what we were doing and promising to communities. the most challenging thing seemed to us that the experiences would be later commodified or decontextualized and or taking out of their context and seeing by the tour operators and people who are bringing tourists or visitors like other products, not the cultural heritage spaces and places with its sensitivities. For most of time, we have little experience like feedbacks from tour operators, but we stay connected with experience owners for years, and every time their feedback, how visitors are perceiving what they are offering, keeping us think that the methodology and the sensitivity approach and the ethical approach still working. And because we were trying to give them not rather sharing facts, but to create capacities for them of storytelling and engaging, evolving also stories and context to their tourism experience. And that part who took this advantage, they are still able to create new offers, new dimensions to what was created by My Armenia project. And those who are still visiting those experiences, making happy photos and sharing their happiness for using this. And that's the feedback we had.
Yeah, very good. Okay, thank you. Keti, I'm going to go to you probably for the last question, unless this is last call for any questions online as well. But Keti, I know it. Oh, okay. Melina, please turn on your mic and
Yeah, hi. So just a quick comment, maybe. Well, first of all, thank you for the fascinating discussion. It's been really wonderful to hear your experiences. And I wanted to suggest this, maybe it might be useful for the project. The identity of the researcher. Years ago, I'm an anthropologist, but originally from Georgia. And years ago, I conducted research in Mukhrani as well on a different topic. And I noticed that that depending on, well, first of all, I spoke to people and they were positioning themselves as Georgian. And then as conversation progressed, as conversation progressed, I basically turned out that some of them were Ossetians. And they remember their story that they moved from Ossetia elsewhere and they just changed their last names. So in that way, it's just like that multi-ethnic and component to include it. So the point is to yeah, sorry. So it's a little bit. So the thing is to basically to keep in mind that when we talk to the locals, they may position themselves differently and may give us different information.
okay, that's excellent. And I think it speaks to the whole kind of how you identify the research, how you work with the researchers, and their own perspectives that they're bringing to the table, of course. Keti, we have 1 more minute left. I'd like for you, please. I know that it's still early with the Mukhrani project, and you don't have any quantitative results, but maybe just 1 minute on what you learned, what you could share qualitatively.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Milena, for your great input. I think that what we learned was, or what we could also achieve, was this feeling of ownership that the people of Mukhrani had for their experiences. Also giving them the possibility to speak freely about their different identities, which was initially a problem, but then with the mutual trust, they could overcome it and speak about different non-heritageable and heritageable things. And what I would also suggest and develop further is this community-centered documentation methodology as something that would benefit also other projects because that fostered also the ownership of the local communities. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Ketevan. I'm going to cut it there. I would just guide your attention to the chat, please. A question from the working group on ICH tourism. Based on your experiences, would you recommend to include an ICH tourism web dossier? Please add any ideas you have into the chat there. And I'm going to pass back over to Halle.
Thank you so much, Michele. And thank you, Ruzanna, Ketevan. Thank you, Ahmed, for adding your comments. And thank you so much to all of you for your interest and your attention. I'm really grateful to the ICH NGO Forum also, and to Yoreen and the group for hosting this dialogue. So if anyone, I would encourage you, we have our next dialogue is already scheduled. It is on September 2nd. So just save the date and look for the invitation. It's going to be Dr. Ivan Henares, who's the president of ICOMOS International Cultural Tourism Committee. I think that's going to be a really interesting and dynamic presentation and conversation. I'd also encourage you to check out the web dossier. I think Ocean's going to put a link in the chat for that. We keep adding information with case studies and with the dialogue, so please be sure to take a look. The information, I remember finding it like well into our work on the Armenia program, and it so much reflects our methodology and ethics around doing this work. The last thing I'll say is Ashkan's going to put a link in the chat to our Cultural Heritage Tourism Initiative at the Smithsonian. If you want to learn more, if you want to be in touch, you can find my contact information there as well. So please check that out. And that is all. In case there's any other housekeeping, I'm very grateful for all of you for participating today. And what we will, since we recorded this, we will also put it online and share it. There's a lot of rich information here. So I know even for me, I'm looking forward to rewatching and taking more notes. So thank you all so much for sharing your insights today.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
for
you
the
so much.
invitation. Thank you, Michele.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
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 Thank you.